AI will not replace team members, but team members who know AI will replace team members who don't. And given that my passion is entrepreneurial teams and how they thrive and how they grow, it's like, that is something I need to pay attention to.
So we're going to really talk about AI and teamwork today and some of the ways that you're using it. But one of the things that I think a lot about you is that you were super early to understanding that AI was going to be really important for teams. Mm-hmm. And that AI was going to be really important in your world. So like, what made you sort of flip that switch? What was the moment where you were thinking about that? And why did you think it was so important?
That's a really great question. I think it's a combination of a couple things. One is I love new things. I love efficiency. I love if anything can speed up my life and make it faster and easier, I'm usually in. So that's my own natural predilection. But I also get the incredible advantage of hanging out with people who are also the same and far more skilled in technology than I will ever be. For example, you, my friend, and hearing about it and what's possible and seeing it demonstrated. So hanging out with our free zone clients, hearing the conversations, seeing the demos of what's possible. I'm like, ooh. And I can be an early adopter. Like I love, ChatGPT, and you turn me on to perplexity.ai, and it's just so cool and it's fun and it's easy. So for me, it was just like, oh, this is really powerful. And then in numerous conversations, the question came up, is AI going to replace team members? And a really great comment came from one of our friends in the pre-zone. He said, there were actually two people who said it. And the comment was, no, AI will not replace team members, but team members who know AI will replace team members who don't. And I thought that was a very profound statement. And given that my passion is entrepreneurial teams and how they work and how they thrive and how they grow, it's like, that is something I need to pay attention to.
Well, and something that I think is interesting even about the way that you're saying this is that you're, I think, an excellent communicator with teams to help teams understand each other better. Mm-hmm. And so it's very interesting to me that you hear, hey, AI is not going to replace humans, but humans using AI will absolutely replace humans. As you talked about those kinds of concepts, those sorts of kind of theories with your teams, with the team people that you're overseeing and working with, what were they thinking?
It depends. I mean, because I also coach team members and team leaders. And so I can give you both standpoints. A lot of the people, we hired you to kind of make AI not scary, which you did a brilliant job of, by the way. And you just made it more normal. Dan Sullivan, co-founder of Coach, Strategic Coach, we were talking, and I know this came up in your conversation with him. It's like, when it becomes boring, that's when it will be normal. So it's one of those use cases. You just have to use it. You have to test it out for yourself. You have to try it. You have to ask, what should I eat for dinner? You have to ask like stupid, mundane questions and then find out, oh, it's kind of like talking to somebody, to realize it's not this big, scary monster. So a lot of our team were like, the boogeyman. And so others of our team were curious. And it's great because we do have a lot of learners in our company, especially in our production and tech areas. So they're like, new toy, new toy, new toy. But other people were like, now, is everyone using it to the same degree? No. Do they need to? No. But you got us over the hump of having it not be this big, scary, intimidating thing. And anytime you generalize like AI is a big thing. There are hundreds, if not thousands of new applications coming out daily, maybe weekly, but it's specific. So once you use it specifically, you're like, oh, that's not so bad. And then for the team leaders that I also coach, for them, it's like they kind of had a very similar reaction. Most of them, though, because they are leaders, are used to looking at new and are used to evaluating them and bringing them into their company. So I would say they're looking at it properly as a new useful tool to see how they can integrate it into their business. And that's what I look for with any kind of leader, is that they don't balk at new things. They can use critical thinking to kind of figure out what's actually going to work for you and your company. That's how.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that you said that I think is really interesting is AI is a really big thing.
Yeah.
And saying we're going to start using AI without like having an intention would be like saying, okay, we're going to start using the internet.
Right.
But we have no intention, right? It's like, it would be completely insane. But where do you start when you're trying to learn the internet back in 2000 or 2003 or 2005? It's just kind of a very similar thing. And I think that one of the things that I really came from strategic coach was that by the end of working with the coach team, I'd ask something like, so how'd you use AI in the last couple of weeks? And people would say, oh, I used it a whole bunch of times, but I don't really remember what it was. It's like, aha.
Yes.
like it's old news. They're almost being dragged to the meeting. They don't really want to be there anymore because it's like, yeah, I've already done this. What do I need it for? Yeah. And so how are you using it now? Or how's the team using it now?
Well, some people are using it personally. I mean, I was blown away in a couple of our sessions where someone said, oh, yeah, I used it to figure out my macros and what my eating should be. And I was like, I didn't know you could use it for that. We use it a lot for asking questions. Perplexity is just wickedly cool. And especially the history. When was this first mentioned? That was some of what we were using it last week. When was the term microchip first used? I was actually trying to find the article from the 70s that Dan first read that turned him onto it. Couldn't quite find it, but that was kind of cool. So yeah, they're just using it a lot for research and a lot for writing. And then I want to start doing some, video stuff, do some more video stuff on YouTube. And so talking to some of our clients about what are the best AI programs to help splice up video quickly. So we're doing some research on that. What I love is I'm getting a lot of this intel from our clients, who are out in that world doing that, first exploration stuff. And they're like, oh yeah, this is great. This one sucks, whatever it is. And then bringing it back to the team to go, hey, can you try this? So I've got a project for one of our guys. It's like, hey, can you run this 20-minute video through this particular program and let me know what you think? Like just start testing, right? So that's one of the newest things we're doing that I'm excited about. And we're using a lot to summarize podcasts. Actually, that's one of the highest use cases we have.
What do you think? Going back to before the AI times. So you're using Perplexity now, you're doing AI transcription, you're about to start embarking on a whole video initiative, which is like 10 times more resource intense than just audio.
Yeah.
Way more intense than just audio. Oh, I have a question about that. Are you hiring new people to do that?
No.
Or are we going to use the same team? So just AI. That is great. What a whole new capability.
Yeah. I mean, we have superb video editors, but I don't want do they have the time to add on this many more hours of video a month to their schedule? I don't think so. So how can we make it easier? Is the question.
And then also it starts to feed a social media funnel more. So now you're starting to get more into Instagram, into Twitter and all these other things.
Yeah, I know. Parent splices it down to reels, cuts it down into any kind of post you want to make. And that I think will really boost it. I love the whole idea of circular virality, which is Brenda Burchard idea, which you just kind of everything feeds into everything else, everything references everything else. And then you can take one thing and then splice and dice it into all the different applications you want to use.
I don't know why, but on my YouTube Shorts feed, which is sometimes it's like beekeeping and sometimes it's just like crazy off the wall stuff like you would find on a TikTok or an Instagram. But there was a period of time where it was the Dave Ramsey show. I think that they're updating this. I think that they're updating the YouTube algorithm like every 3 days or something, because only for like a week was it just Dave Ramsey show stuff all the time. But it was so viral, the stuff that was on there. And so if you can launch into that stuff, it's going to be
that's what's gotten me hooked on it. So there's Dave Ramsey, there's Dr. John Deloney, who's very addictive, and you see the reel and you're like, oh my God, it's the trouble people get themselves into. Oh my God. But then I'm like, I need to hear the whole episode. And then I'm watching the whole thing. Right. So I get hooked on that all the time in a quite an entertaining way. And I know I'm being entertained, but yeah, I want to provide that for other people too. It'd be fun.
Absolutely. I feel like starting video production in your business, talk about daunting.
Yeah.
And so for you to be able to do that with the same team that you have, just a couple of like monthly subscriptions, boy.
Well, and I think one of the really key things for me with AI is how much it shifts your thinking, how much bigger you can think, right? How much more can you take on? Adding X number of hours to video to a team's time, like to edit, can be quite a burden. Like it's like thanks, dude. They're already fully employed. Thank you very much. So the idea of adding that much extra work looks like you're kind of mean, right? And yes, you can see the benefit, but at the same time, there's a big cost. And all of a sudden, if you can add, AI as your teammate, then you're like, this is doable. And that just makes it more fun for everyone, takes out the heavy lifting, which you've always been talking about, and allows me to think bigger and expand my reach, which is huge. That's my job as a leader, is to help figure that out, but then also find the resources and tools to make that not arduous. So, and AI is just awesome, and new stuff's coming out. It's exciting. It's fun.
Absolutely. Well, and one of the other things that I think that you're going through this experience, or you've gone through this experience now, but a lot of people that haven't started doing AI, they have this experience where their ambitions are certainly bigger than what their team can currently support. But second of all, if you hire somebody for 40 hours a week worth of work, or you hire somebody full time, whether or not they're making the most productive use of that full time is unimportant to the fact that they will work the 40 hours. And so when you want to increase the capabilities, the first thing that you have to do is you have to actually free them up. So it seems like they're going to go from 40 hours a week down to 30 or 20 hours a week worth of work that they're currently doing now. But only then can you start to add more stuff onto your plate to do something like start a video.
Very true. So I think, finding a powerful tool to leverage that creativity and allow them to stretch and them to grow and them to test and them to learn and them to fail, what works, what doesn't work, then the whole process gets better, because then your team is becoming way more capable and what they can do and the elegance of it and the nuances, as opposed to just the brute force stuff that they have to do.
Yeah. And as a leader, I think you said this earlier, your job is really to have a bigger future and to help move your team in the direction of that bigger future. But your team only has so much capacity. Whereas the moment that you start to free them up, especially from boring stuff, it's like, wow, I used to do all this stuff that I hate. Now I don't do any of that stuff that I hate anymore. All of a sudden their future gets bigger and they can march even faster with you in the right direction, which I think is actually the most important part.
Well, and that's critical, which is why they need to have the right mindset. Yeah. Like, if they're like, no, I just like doing what I'm doing, don't make me do anything else. You're like,
sorry.
This is the job. And we have let people go because they would not adapt to new technology. And this was years ago. But this particular person would not adapt to digital. Right. And she's a graphic artist, really good. But she would not adapt to, and finally we're slow to fire sometimes. But finally we're just like, we had to part company. And then I got word back. She goes, yeah, I'm having trouble finding work because everyone wants digital. And we're like,
interesting.
You think? Right? It's like, she just was so much in her little mindset of who she was. She was an artist, blah, 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 that she kind of just didn't get how did she stay relevant? Mm-hmm. How did she stay viable in the marketplace? You had to keep pace. Someone else wouldn't adapt to a new CRM that we had. She, like, fully resistant. Like, you got to kind of move with that wave. So people's mindset needs to be, okay, I'm going to get disrupted in how I do things every 6 months, every year, every 2 years. And I have to make that normal and not dread it, but actually, why don't I go find the cool thing I want to use? Why don't I be proactive? Why don't I spend time in the evening, upping my skills? When I come to work, it's like tickety-boo. So the mindset needs to be adapt, and better yet, initiate. That's an entrepreneurial mindset. Someone who's just like arms crossed, no thanks, is not long for most growing companies.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a place for people that or for team members that are going to be arms crossed, no thanks. It's just not at my company. It's at somebody else's. Yeah.
I was kind of worried there for a second. I'm like,
no, there's absolutely a place. It's just working for somebody else, maybe my competition. So, yeah, but I think it's very real that, right now, being able to use, embrace, and sort of be out on the forefront of AI, it's a real strategic advantage. It's a real credit to you as a company or as an employee that you're able to get 10 times or 5 times or 3 times as much done, and you're enjoying your life more. But at some point in the future, just as what happened with digital, at some point it'll become table stakes. So it's also training for, what's going to be normal.
And I think the sooner you can make new things normal, that's what gives you the advantage. And people come resist stuff out of fear, usually. Well, fear, and some people are just stubborn. I've also learned that to be true. They don't think they should have to change, right? Or essentially that means grow. Like, well, since when did not growing become a good thing? So yeah, some people do have that mindset, but hopefully that's few and far between. But I do think that's absolutely vital, and really culturing that in your company, a growth mindset, learning, not punishing people when things don't work well, creating psychological safety, as the term is, I think is critical to have people embrace new things and not freak out. You have to make it safe for them to test and experiment and try and add these resources, pay the fees, do all that, celebrate wins, celebrate experimenting. It means as a leader, you can create that environment or you can prevent it.
Right.
So I think there's a mindset for leadership as well too. It's not just your teammate, your actual team members. It's you as a leader need to go, okay, am I making this friendly or am I making it scary?
Yeah.
So there's something there for us to do too.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And what, it's not just you with your team. Your team is also listening to the media. They're listening to everybody else talk about AI as your competition, which is AI is coming in. It's going to take the job. It's going to do the thing. Oh, by the way, whoever's building the AI is better funded than you and you can't stop it. Right. So this is inevitable. But as soon as you as a leader are able to kind of clearly envision the future as one that's just AI is foundational, but everybody else is even better or even more powerful. Mm-hmm. One of the things when I was at Abundance 360 a month ago, they had the mayor of Vancouver speaking about AI and about the transformation that's happening in Vancouver right now. And one of the things that he said is he said that he told his team really early on, at least this is how I remember it. He told his team really early on that they were going to be using all sorts of great digital automation type technology to help the city run more efficiently. And
that's amazing.
He said, not a single person is going to lose their jobs because of the technology. Yep. And he said, it's a selfish reason. The reason for it is because if any one person loses their jobs because of the technology, this will be the last time the city ever has this type of transformation ever again. And so he just published it. But then all of a sudden now the city's absolutely transforming.
Oh, see, that's brilliant. And frankly, unexpected from a politician.
Well, he was an entrepreneur first.
Okay, love that. Smart Vancouver for electing him. But and people need to know that. People need to know that you are not looking to replace them with AI. It's like, okay, buy video editor, buy audio editor, buy, I'm just going to use technology now. And everyone's like, there's no incentive for them to embrace it. But if it's like, no, we're going to keep every single one of you, that is, you just calmed everyone down. Yeah. And that is absolutely vital. And it's actually, we're looking to get rid of the hard, annoying, boring stuff. And we want to leverage you to do more of what you love to do and are best at. At Coach, we call that unique ability. Then people are like, oh, okay, maybe I do have mental bandwidth to take on this new idea.
Oh, it was great. It was absolutely, this is exactly what I needed to hear as we're talking about AI, we're talking about teamwork. So my last question for you, I want to take you all the way back to, so like knowing what you know now, but taking you all the way back to where you started. What do you know now that you really wish that you would have known when you were first thinking, hey, AI, this seems like it's going to be pretty important?
This is going to sound really weird. I wish that I'd known that people would be so scared of it. I don't have that mindset. And I know that what I do day to day, standing up in front of coaching people, is not replaceable by AI. So I don't have that fundamental foundational fear. I wish I'd appreciated how scary it could be for some people. That frankly took me by surprise, which sounds like a weird thing to say. But yeah, I've been kind of taken aback by how terrified. I was even in Uber in San Diego week before last week. And the guy's, oh yeah, AI is so scary. And I'm like, really? What makes you say that? I really love using ChatGPT and Perplexity and blah, blah. And he was like, oh, he didn't really have an answer. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, oh my God, it's just fun. It's a tool. But on that point, when this kind of circles back to what we were saying about being specific, AI is a big general thing. Sure. You're like, it looks like it's taken over the world, certainly taken over the airwaves. But until it has a specific application, that's the only time it becomes relevant. Yeah. And so I think helping people get connected with what they specifically do is the solution to help people go, oh, this is just another tool in my toolbox. It's not something that's going to take over my life, take over the world, take over my employment. So again, it's that lack of specificity that I think is the danger. And that's kind of what I've learned, is helping people get more specific with. So a couple of us we're on a Zoom call, and we're both on Perplexity asking different questions.
Yeah.
On the app. Like, how fun was that? That was awesome. What'd you get? Here's what I got. I used it. I was in a branding meeting, and I thought, I'm missing something here. Like, we were talking about Strategic Coach brand and the Dan brand, and Perplexity was my best friend. I said, what are the characteristics of a great brand? Got the 15. I'm like, oh, that's more than I expected. I'm like, how would you identify or describe Strategic Coach's brand? How would you describe Dan Sullivan's brand? How would you compare the two? Oh my God, it was perfect. I put it all into a Google Doc and shared it with the team. I'm like, hey guys, this is freaking awesome. Way more articulate. We've been having meetings upon meetings upon meetings to try and figure this out. Bam. Seconds later, it was done. So just getting creative about and asking it to go and find and aggregate big data that you're finding complex and hard is like so fun. So anyway, those are some of the recent examples.
Well, and I think that, that's a really, really, I think, just brilliant point to end on. The first of the kind of like sub points is that if you don't have a specific use for it, then AI is really big and scary and daunting. Yeah. And I think one of the things that's happening in the media, but also in AI land right now, is there's a lot of selling of complexity. Because there's a lot of selling of complexity, I think what happens is it creates that lack of specificity.
Right.
Because nobody's willing to speak to a specific. Whereas the moment that what you said was like, is, hey, this is a tool in my tool belt. All of a sudden now, wait a second. Oh, I'm thinking about this completely differently. First of all, I own the tool belt.
Yes, you do.
And second of all, now I have a hammer. I just need a nail. Right. And so how do I find the nail? But then the other thing is that, Perplexity, in that moment where you're using Perplexity for Dan brand, Coach brand, compare and contrast, all these different things. Think about the future meetings that were just automated away. Because you weren't going back, well, what about this? What about that? You're thinking, you're 2 glasses of wine in on a Friday night. You're thinking about, I just had this idea. It just throws a wrench into everything. Right? Yeah. All these things. And all of a sudden, we just cut right to the chase. This is absolutely great.
Well, and I cannot thank you enough, because you helped take the fear factor out for people. You gave homework assignments, go and test it out in your personal life as well as in your business life. And you made stuff normal. Not sure it's boring yet, 'cause it's still pretty fun, but it's you, and it's just you. You were the one leading our team, but your program to help companies become much more familiar, comfortable, safe with it and make it more normal was a profound shift. And now it kind of has become normal, in Coach. Like, if someone's using Perplexity or Chat, whatever, it's pretty expected. Here's what I learned. We bring that to meetings now, and it's refreshing and it's fun. And it gives me confidence that people are now spending their time doing their creative work and not the heavy lifting stuff that AI can do better. So it gives me more confidence in our team that we're using our capabilities strategically. So thank you.
Thank you. So if you want to learn more about Shannon, learn more about Strategic Coach, head to strategiccoach.com or read one or both. I recommend both of Shannon's books, Multiplication by Subtraction and the Team Success Handbook. If you want to learn more about Teammate AI, we're on a mission to automate 10 million hours by 2030. And you can learn more about it by going to teammateai.com. Thanks very much, Shannon.
Thank you so much, Evan.